The smell of burnt coffee mingled with the scent of cheap incense as Helen pushed open the fogged glass door of the Divine Light Spiritual Center. At 57, her hands trembled not only from the March chill cutting through Chicago, but from the anticipation she'd carried for 2 decades. 20 years. 20 years since Carolina vanished at 17, leaving only a scrawled note, "I need to find who I really am, Mom. Don't look for me." The room was filled with plastic chairs arranged in a circle, occupied by people with weary expressions and bloodshot eyes. Helen recognized that silent despair. It was the same one she saw in the mirror every morning. Mrs. Francis, a robust woman with graying hair, gestured dramatically in the center of the circle, her gold rings catching the yellowish light of the faulty fluorescent lamps. "We have a special energy among us today," Mrs. Francis murmured, her small eyes fixing on Helen. Helen clutched her purse to her chest, feeling the weight of Carolina's photograph she always carried. The same photo she'd shown to dozens of detectives, private investigators, psychics, and mediums over the years. Carolina, smiling, with those bright green eyes and brown hair cascading in waves over her shoulders. So young, so full of life. "Close your eyes and breathe deeply," instructed Mrs. Francis, dimming the main lights. "Let the voices from beyond find us." Helen closed her eyes, but couldn't push away the memory of that morning in 1992. Carolina had left for school as always, with her navy blue backpack and impeccable uniform. She kissed Helen on the cheek and said, "I love you, Mom," before disappearing out the door. Those were the last words Helen heard from her daughter. The silence in the room was broken by a low moan from Mrs. Francis. Helen opened her eyes and saw the medium swaying back and forth, as if wrestling with some invisible force. "Someone's coming," whispered a woman sitting next to Helen. "Someone young." Helen's heart pounded. Her hands were icy and sweaty at the same time. Mrs. Francis began to speak in a different voice, higher pitched, almost childlike. "Mom, Mom, can you hear me?" The voice. Helen felt as if the floor had vanished beneath her feet. It was Carolina's voice, exactly as she remembered, sweet, slightly husky, with that Chicago accent she'd never quite lost. "Carolina?" Helen whispered, her voice cracking. "My daughter, is that you?" "I'm here, Mom. I'm in a dark place. Cold. It's been a long time." Tears streamed down Helen's face, leaving salty trails on her dry skin. 20 years of questioning, sleepless nights, guilt, and self-recrimination, all concentrated in that moment. "Where are you, my daughter? What happened to you?" I went far away, very far. There were people who promised to show me the truth. But the truth hurts, Mom. It hurts so much." Carolina's voice through Mrs. Francis sounded distant, as if coming from a deep tunnel. Helen leaned forward, desperate to catch every word. "What people? Who took you?" They called themselves family. They said I was special, that I had a purpose. But the purpose was dark." Suddenly, Mrs. Francis convulsed violently, as if being attacked by something invisible. Her eyes rolled back, and she began to speak in a completely different voice, deep, male, menacing. She shouldn't be talking. Some secrets should remain buried. A chill ran down Helen's spine. Around the circle, the other people seemed uneasy, some whispering prayers, others nervously glancing at the doors. "Who are you?" Helen asked, her voice firmer than she thought possible. "I am the guardian of secrets. And you, Helen Santos, should stop looking for what you don't want to find." The full name. Helen had never told Mrs. Francis her full name, only Helen. Her blood ran cold. "Mom, don't listen to him," Carolina's voice returned, more urgent now. "He's lying. I need to tell you about the place where they took me." "Caroline, get back here!" The deep voice roared through Mrs. Francis, who was now foaming at the mouth. "You belong to us." "No!" Carolina screamed. "Mom, they're in St. Charles, on the farm, the Eternal Paradise Farm. Look for Brother Michael. He knows. He knows what they did to me." Suddenly, Mrs. Francis slumped in her chair, breathing heavily. The silence in the room was deafening. Helen was trembling uncontrollably, her mind racing with the information she'd just received. "Sorry," Mrs. Francis mumbled, wiping the foam from her lips with a tissue. Sometimes the sessions get intense. Did you hear anything that might help you?" Helen nodded, unable to speak. Eternal Paradise Farm, Brother Michael, St. Charles. These were concrete clues, the first real clues she'd had in 20 years. 2 weeks later, Helen was driving down the dusty road leading to the countryside outside St. Charles. She had spent every cent of her savings hiring a private investigator who had uncovered records of a rural property called Eternal Paradise Farm that operated between 1991 and 1994. Officially, it was a therapeutic community for troubled youth. Unofficially, there were rumors of strange practices, disappearances, and a police investigation that was mysteriously closed. The investigator had also found Michael Santos, no relation to Helen, who had been the leader of the community and now lived as a hermit in the nearby mountains. He would be about 70 now if he were still alive. The road became a dirt track, and Helen had to stop the car several times to check the GPS on her phone, which barely received a signal. The trees closed in around the road like green walls, blocking the sunlight and creating a dark, claustrophobic atmosphere. Finally, she saw the ruins of the farm. Crumbling brick walls, collapsed roofs, broken windows reflecting the filtered light like dead eyes. Helen stopped the car and slowly got out. The silence was complete, except for the wind in the leaves and the distant sound of a creek. She walked to the main entrance, where a faded sign was still partially legible. Eternal Paradise Farm, Renewal of Soul and Spirit. That's when she heard it. Laughter. Young, feminine laughter coming from somewhere within the ruins. Carolina's laughter. Helen ran towards the sound, stumbling over rocks and branches, her heart pounding so hard she could hear the blood pulsing in her ears. "Carolina!" she screamed. "Carolina, where are you?" The laughter stopped abruptly. A deathly silence fell over the farm. Helen found herself in a central courtyard, surrounded by ruined dormitories. In the center was a dry fountain, filled with dead leaves and debris. Something glinted at the bottom of the fountain. Helen leaned down and saw a silver chain, a chain she recognized immediately. It was the necklace she had given Caroline on her 16th birthday, the necklace with a small silver angel that Caroline never took off. With trembling hands, Helen reached into the fountain and retrieved the necklace. It was still intact, but something was tied to it, a small folded piece of paper. Carefully, she unfolded the paper. It was a note written in Caroline's handwriting. "Mom, if you're reading this, then you found me. Not how I expected, but you found me. I need you to know the truth. I came here of my own free will. I wasn't kidnapped. I was searching for them." Helen felt as if she'd been punched in the gut. She leaned against the edge of the fountain, reading the rest of the note. "I was lost, Mom. Lost and angry. Angry at you, at Dad, at our whole normal and safe life. I wanted something more, something real. Brother Michael promised me that here I would find my true self, my divine purpose. I believed him. I believed them all, until it was too late." Helen turned the paper over. There was more. "They said I was special, that I had a gift, that I could be a portal to the divine. But their divine was dark, Mom, very dark. They performed rituals, sacrifices, not just of animals. When I tried to leave, they said I knew too much, that I was theirs forever. I hid this note hoping that someone, someday, might find it. If you're reading this, then I didn't escape. I'm so sorry, Mom. I'm sorry for being so foolish. I'm sorry for leaving you. I love you. I always loved you. Find Brother Michael. He has the answers you need. But be careful. He's still alive, and he's still dangerous." Helen collapsed to the ground, sobbing. 20 years of hope, of believing her daughter had been a victim of abduction, of imagining she might still be alive somewhere in the world, it all crumbled in a few handwritten paragraphs. Caroline had chosen to leave. She had chosen to join those people. And apparently she had paid the ultimate price for that choice. "Did you find what you were looking for?" Helen turned sharply. An elderly man stood at the courtyard entrance, leaning on a cane. Long white hair, unkempt beard, faded but still intense blue eyes. He wore simple clothes, old jeans and a flannel shirt. "Are you Miguel Santos?" Helen asked, slowly rising. "Brother Michael to you," he replied, his voice raspy but firm, "though I haven't used that title in a long time." "Where is my daughter?" Helen clutched the note to her chest. "Where is Caroline?" Michael slowly walked to the fountain, looking at the necklace in Helen's hand. "She was special," he said softly, "more special than any of us could have imagined. Answer my question." "She's everywhere and nowhere," Michael murmured, his eyes glazed over. "She became part of something bigger, something eternal." Helen felt a hot anger rise in her chest. "You killed her. You killed my daughter." "I didn't kill anyone," Michael replied, genuinely surprised. Caroline left by her own choice. She saw the truth about what we were doing, and she couldn't live with it. What truth? Michael sat on the edge of the fountain, suddenly seeming much more frail. "We believed we were serving God, that we were preparing young souls for ascension. But the voices we heard, the voices that guided us, weren't divine. They were something much older, much darker." Helen moved closer, her heart pounding. "Go on." "We performed rituals. We tried to open portals. We tried to communicate with the other side. And we succeeded. But what came through those portals wasn't light. It was darkness, hunger, a thirst for young souls." "You're saying you fed these things children?" "Not intentionally," Miguel whispered. "At least not at first. We thought we were elevating them, transforming them, but they simply disappeared, one by one, until only Caroline remained." Helen held her breath. What happened to her? She discovered the truth before any of us. She saw through the lies, saw what we truly were, what we were truly doing. And Miguel hesitated, his hands trembling. "She tried to close the portal, tried to stop what we had started." "And you stopped her?" "We tried, but Caroline was stronger than we thought. She managed to close the portal, but the price was high. She had to sacrifice herself to seal the passage." Helen felt the world spin. "Are you telling me my daughter killed herself to stop you?" "No," Miguel shook his head. "She didn't kill herself. She transformed. She became part of the barrier that keeps those things away from our world." "That's insane," Helen murmured. But a part of her, a small, desperate part, wanted to believe. "It's the truth," Miguel insisted. "And that's why she can communicate with us. That's why you heard her at the seance. She's between worlds, guarding the border." Helen looked at the necklace in her hands. "Prove it. Prove she's between worlds." Michael slowly rose and walked to one of the ruined walls. With his cane, he began scraping away loose mortar. Chunks of wall fell away, revealing something hidden beneath. Symbols, hundreds of symbols carved into the wall. Some burned into the stone, others painted with what looked like dried blood. "She did this?" Helen asked, approaching. "Yes, last night, before the final sacrifice." Helen examined the symbols closer. In the center, there was something that stopped her heart. A message written in Portuguese, deeply etched into the stone. "Mom, if you're reading this, then I succeeded. The portal is closed. They can't hurt anyone anymore. I love you. Always loved you. Don't cry for me. I finally found my purpose. I finally found my peace." Helen touched the words with her fingers, feeling the rough grooves in the stone. They were real, they were genuine, and they were definitely Caroline's handwriting. How can I be sure you're not lying?" Michael answered softly, "Because I can still hear her. Every night, she protects me. She protects us all. And now that you're here, she can finally rest." "What do you mean?" Michael smiled sadly. "She was waiting for you to come, waiting for you to know the truth. Now that you know, she can let go." At that moment, Helen felt a gentle, warm breeze that didn't match the chill of the afternoon. A familiar scent, the cheap perfume Caroline wore as a teenager, filled the air. "Mom!" The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. Helen looked around, tears storming down her face. "Caroline?" "I'm okay, Mom. I'm at peace. You can let me go now."
"No," Helen sobbed. "I can't. You're all I have." "I'm not," Caroline's voice whispered. "You have a whole life ahead of you. You have love to give. You have purpose. Let me go, Mom. Let me rest." Helen knelt on the ground, clutching the necklace to her chest. "I love you so much, my daughter, so much. I know, and I love you too, but now you need to live for both of us." The breeze began to grow stronger, and Helen felt as if 1,000 gentle hands were touching her face, drying her tears. "Bye, Mom. See you later." And then, silence. Helen knelt for a long time, Caroline's necklace clutched in her hands. When she finally stood, Miguel had vanished. She was alone in the ruins, with the sun setting on the horizon. She walked back to the car, feeling strangely light. For the first time in 20 years, she didn't feel the weight of guilt and doubt. She knew the truth. She knew Caroline had found her purpose, even if it was a tragic one. But there was something more, something Helen hadn't told anyone, not even herself. 2 weeks after the séance, she'd received a call in the middle of the night. A young female voice speaking about a suspicious religious community that was recruiting teenagers in a nearby town. The voice had given addresses, names, specific details. It was Caroline's voice. Helen hadn't investigated immediately because she was focused on the farm. But now, driving back to Chicago, she knew what she had to do. She pulled the car over to the side of the road and grabbed her phone. She dialed the police. "I'd like to report something," she said when the dispatcher answered, "about a cult that's recruiting underage kids." As she spoke, she felt that gentle, warm breeze again. Caroline's perfume filled the car for a moment, and Helen smiled. Her daughter was still protecting children, still fulfilling her purpose, and Helen finally knew what hers was. In the following months, Helen became an activist. She used her story, her pain, her experience to help other families who had lost children to dangerous cults and sects. She created a support group, worked with the police, helped identify suspicious organizations. And occasionally, late at night, she heard Caroline's voice. Not in seances, Helen never went back to Mrs. Francis, but in quiet moments, when she was helping another desperate mother, or when she saved another child from a fate similar to Caroline's. It was always the same thing, a gentle whisper, "Thank you, Mom. Keep going." Helen never answered verbally, but she kept going. Every day, she kept going. Because now she knew that loving someone didn't mean holding on. It meant letting go when it was time. It meant transforming pain into purpose. It meant honoring the memory not through grief, but through action. And somewhere between worlds, between light and darkness, between what was and what could be, Caroline smiled. Her mother had finally understood. True love doesn't die with death. It transforms. It becomes something bigger, something eternal. And in that knowledge, both mother and daughter found their peace. If this story touched your heart as it touched mine while writing it, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Stories like this, exploring the boundaries between love and loss, between the real and the supernatural, need to be told. They need to be heard. They need to be shared. Because in every story of sorrow, there's also a story of hope. In every ending, there's also a new beginning. Subscribe for more narratives that will make you question everything you think you know about love, death, and the nature of reality. Years later, when Helen finally passed away, peacefully at the age of 82, surrounded by dozens of people whose lives she had touched, the last words she whispered were, "I'm going, Caroline. I'm going." And those present swore they heard two voices answering, "We're waiting, Mom. We're waiting." The silver angel necklace was found on her nightstand, polished and bright as if new, with a small folded note beside it. "Mission accomplished. See you soon." And somewhere, between worlds, between light and darkness, between what was and what always will be, a mother and daughter were finally reunited. Forever.